Hi, Mario, and thank you for joining Shoes in Bitcoin.
Thanks for having me on.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great today. Thanks. How are you?
Great, thank you. So, Mario, you are based out of Canada?
That's right. Yeah, I live in Victoria on the West Coast right now.
Great, very, very nice. So, I have invited you, Mario, just to share with me more about your Super Mario powers and all your experience in the Bitcoin industry. I'm really curious to know more about your journey into the so-called rabbit hole.
Sure. Yeah. So um, I don't have a technical background. I studied history and stuff at university, and then I spent most of my 20s teaching English. Yeah, as an English teacher out in South Korea. But then while I was there, I ended up just some guy in a bar had told me about Bitcoin, and it kind of stuck in my mind. About a year later, I was at this point in my life where I had a lot of spare time, and I decided to poke around a little bit more, and then I found a meetup group in my neighborhood, which was this was in Korea, but it was English speakers. It was run by Ruben Thompson, who is now a close friend of mine. He's been involved in Bitcoin for quite some time, and he was running his own little meetup group there, and I just kind of randomly showed up one day, and I was hooked pretty much from the start. I just thought it was so interesting. There's just so much to learn in Bitcoin. It's a combination of all these different types of fields of study. There's so many. You can learn stuff about cryptography and computing and networking, and then finance and monetary theory and there's the whole social layer. So there was always new stuff to learn. And so that was mid 2016. Um, and so at the time it was still kind of a small group. We would just gather in a coffee shop once a week or so, and yeah, I was showing up every week for basically all that year. Kind of right away, my that was I would work or study, and then it was Bitcoin time. And then in 2017, the bull run came, and that took off in Korea especially hard. And so our meetup group started getting lots and lots of attendance. And at that point, I was one of the organizers, and so I started getting to do some more lectures and teaching people about it. And I think if you want to really learn something, committing to teaching other people about it is a great way to make sure you're up to scratch. And so yeah, and through 2017, there was a Bitcoin civil war with the big blocks and everything, and our meetup ended up taking a bit of a strong stance on it. And oh, okay, there I am. Yeah. And and because of that, I ended up getting in touch with Warren Togami of Blockstream, and he encouraged me to apply for a position. They needed someone who could be in Canada, and so yeah, that was early 2018. I joined the Blockstream team as a customer support lead, so mainly doing customer support for the Blockstream Green wallet, and then later Aqua, and kind of gradually expanded to more products, and was involved with running the store and stuff. And yeah, learned a tremendous amount. Really grateful to have spent 3 years at Blockstream. And then as of a couple of months ago, I joined the Ledin team, Ledin.io, which where we're doing we offer interest rates in for depositing Bitcoin or USDC, and offer Bitcoin collateralized loans. So it's been a fun shift, because with Blockstream, a lot of the products are really kind of infrastructure, and it's a lot of like building tools and letting other people use it themselves. Whereas now I get to work on the side of things where actually are a custodian. We're directly managing people's funds, so it's more of it's a very different type of business. So it's kind of exciting getting to see a whole other face of the industry. So anyways, that's where I'm at right now.
Sounds great. Thank you for sharing this with me. So, by the way, I just have one big request to you. Kindly ask you not to judge me about my English. So,
Oh no, your English is good. Don't worry.
no, it can be always better. Currently, I'm focused on learning Italian. So, and definitely, since I have started learning Italian and being in Italy, my English started being worse than before.
What's your native language?
Bulgarian. I'm from Bulgaria.
Okay, okay.
Do you know
So you
where?
speak three. Sorry.
Do you know where is Bulgaria?
Of course, I know where Bulgaria is. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I do. I do speak Bulgarian, uh, English, German, and now I have started also learning Italian.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's
Okay. Well, yeah. You can speak many languages. I only have the one. I mean, I can speak a little bit of Korean, but
yeah.
my
You can
Korean
mention about
my Korean is much worse than your English. I will say that though. Your English is better than my Korean. So yeah.
uh, um, you know, by the way, I have started my career in IT as a customer support. So
Hmm.
picking up the phone and answering enterprise customers' requests in terms of um, uh, enabling, disabling accounts in their database and providing access to particular SharePoints and data. So I can imagine more or less that what you have shared with me and your job at Blockstream. But I'm really curious to know more about your experience there, and I would say more about what kind of typical requests you were supposed to face. And by the way, how big was the team there? Uh,
So when I joined, I think I was like there were 45 people when I joined, and by the time I left, I think it was around 70 or 80 people. Um,
okay.
and yeah, so like most of the requests were it was mainly people having trouble, using or like asking about features for the blockchain green wallet, and it was an interesting role. It wasn't typical customer support in that we didn't. It's a non-custodial wallet, so we never, we weren't able to be like, oh, what's your name and your email, and look up their account in our database. We don't have any of that, right? We just kind of launched an open source tool, and so whenever someone is messaging for help, like you have to be very careful because you don't want to be helping anyone who's trying to steal from someone else's wallet. And even if we couldn't like release funds to anyone. But you also had to be uh, cautious of that there are people out there who will try to social engineer their way into people's accounts and like try and get support to help them. And so they taught me to be quite suspicious, and so it was interesting because you want to do that, but at the same time you want to provide good customer support, and so you need to treat every customer as though they're kind of uh, your response has to be appropriate whether or not they're trying to access a vault that isn't theirs, or if they're just an innocent user trying to get some help, because that's what most people are. So yeah, that was quite interesting, and it's I had to learn technically how the wallet works to quite um, uh, uh, to a pretty deep level in order to answer a lot of their requests. So, but I really love that part of it. I could just, had access to all the devs. I could just ping them with questions, and yeah. So, like, I mean, that was really fun.
yeah.
And
I really did say that what you have just mentioned about the people who are trying to, who are attempting actually to access other people's accounts and steal, yeah, literally steal their funds. And normally, is there a way, okay, after recognizing and identifying such people, is it possible to, I don't know, they to be kind of punished for these attempts, because this is an attempt to steal. The fact that they did not manage to steal the funds does not mean that they haven't attempted to perform a kind of a criminal deed.
well, for a lot of the cases, you don't know, right? You just have people make a request and they want to do something. They're like, oh, sorry, we can't do that. And like sometimes people actually lose, for example, their 2FA, and they want to get around that. They'll ask us to lift it. Um, and sometimes, people might have stolen someone's demonic and are trying to bypass 2FA. And so we have no way of knowing which is the real case, right? Because we don't keep track of this stuff. So it's not really, we can't really pursue as a wallet provider, you can't really pursue like legal action because you don't actually know which case it is, right? And for most people trying to do the shadier stuff, they're probably going to cover their tracks pretty well, I would guess. So that wasn't really our our domain when I was there. Like it was that's kind of more up to if you're a person and someone else hacked your laptop and get access to your wallet, that it's kind of on you to pursue law enforcement. As an open source provider, that's not really their role. um,
Mhm.
at one point, Blockstream did. I think this still exists as the Blockstream scam DB because there were enough people trying to, there's this, ongoing problem in the space where people make imposter accounts that pretend to be a person or pretend to be a company and try to convince people to send them their coins. And Blockstream had that as much as any other entity in the space. And so there was a website that was launched that tried to warn people about these scams, but there's not much that can be done legally. Also, when you're dealing with open source tools, they're used by people all over the globe in 200 different countries. You can't pursuing legal action and trying to figure out where people are is not really a plausible thing.
Right. So you have mentioned Blockstream Scams DB. Okay, this is a database with all the.
Oh yeah, that's just something that we put up to try and warn people about imposters. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
good to know. Thank you for this information. And what about Leiden? Sorry if I'm
Leaden.
Leiden. Sorry.
Yeah. It's like the word lend, but just with hodl, the
Okay.
L and D switch stuff. There you go. Right. So Leaden's really cool. I originally met the co-founders of Leaden, Adam and Maurizio. They're based in Toronto, and I have a lot of family and friends in Toronto, so I used to bounce between there and Victoria. And so I met them at one of these Bitcoin dinners, and this was early on when the lending space was just starting to launch. It would have been in 2019, and I'd been interested in these services before. Like I remember thinking, like probably about a year before I met them, that there was probably a lot more you could do with custodial services. It's just custodians had a really bad rap for the first 10 years of Bitcoin's history because of all the hacks and the thefts and stuff. I remember thinking like there's probably going to be some much better custodial services that are going to rise in the next few years as the industry matures. And so I was kind of primed to uh, you know to get Leaden when I met them anyway. So I met Adam and Maurizio at this dinner, and they invited me to come by the office because they wanted to hear about Blockstream and I wanted to hear more about Leaden. And I really enjoyed their service. I was one of their earlier clients for the interest rate products where you can deposit your Bitcoin and they lend it out and pay interest. So I've been using them for about a year and a half, and had been one of their affiliates, and it was trying to onboard other people, and was really happy with the service, but was also kind of like constantly pinging them, be like, hey, you should add this. Hey, you should add this. And then about 2 months ago, they reached out and said, would you consider coming to work for us? And I had a few phone calls, and it worked out really well partly because I was ready for a change, and partly because I had been meaning to move to Toronto for a while now, because that's where Leaden is based. Um, so I'll be going there in the summer. But yeah, it's fun joining the team as well because I'm joining it at a very different stage in its development than when I joined Blockstream. Leaden is smaller. We've just grown to 30 people. And actually, as of today, there's a big announcement. We just raised our another round of 30 million investment. So that's what we've been excited about most recently. So we're growing pretty fast, and yeah, it's a really fun team as well. It's got a nice vibe in the place. Companies cultures like really get set by their founders, and I really like the tone that Adam and Maurizio have set for the place. Um, and I'm really grateful to be on board. So now I also get to do a bit more. I'm no longer doing customer support. I get to do stuff a bit more on the marketing end of things, and get to be a bit more public facing, which I really enjoy. I'm one of the few extroverts at Bitcoin, so I love the chances to interact with people a lot. Yeah.
That's great, and people need actually the industry needs more people like you. So it's wonderful, and you have mentioned that's great news that you have received additional funding and you're going to grow further. So do you have any? Click here to view all open roles. what about what kind of positions are you currently looking for? Client success, you have mentioned this is not your domain right now. You're not going to be focused on that. So
Mm.
there are some market.
But yeah, we definitely are hiring there. Like I mean, a lot of our clientele are based in Latin America. So as much of our content as we can, we keep in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. So that's why you'll see our client success roles where we are generally looking for bilingual people. We're looking for developers as always. You know, everyone's always looking for devs, of course. Those are kind of the main things we're looking for at the moment. And yeah, I mean, we also did, you know, recently grow quite quickly from you know, I think it was about a dozen people when I first started talking to Ledden about joining 2 months ago, and now we recently hit 30. So it's been quite a bit spurt, and then I think we need to do some you know, consolidation around the current team we have, and then we'll be kind of putting the new money to use. Yeah, we are looking to buff out our security as well. You know, that's absolutely paramount. It's the number one thing. If you're going to run a custodial platform, security has to be number one. And so we are looking to beef up our team there. And yeah, also our I think one other role we've got listed there is for marketing. We are looking for some design people. But yeah.
That's great. That's great. So you have mentioned that Leiden is actually providing kind of loans to the
Mm.
people on a particular
Yeah,
interest.
I can go into more detail there.
Yeah, I would love to. So borrow, is
Yeah.
this where I can calculator? There is also
Sure. Well, why don't we actually go to let's do the savings first,
okay.
because that's the easiest to explain. So there are four main products that we have right now, and two of them are savings products. One of them is BTC savings, the other is USDC. So you know, the US dollar stable coin launched by Circle and Coinbase.
Oh,
Um, and for the customer, from the client side of things, it's very simple. You deposit your coins with us, and we will pay you interest on it. So, you know, if you deposit, you know, 1 Bitcoin with us at the end of each month, you will get, you know, whatever the interest rate is divided by 12. So it's around, you know, 0.5% a month. So it comes out to 6.5% per year interest. And it's the same thing with USDC, only it's 12.5%. So what happens there on our end is that we lend it out through our partnership with Genesis.
mhm.
Genesis had been operating in this space for quite some years now. They're highly transparent. They, you know, they do they release their quarterly reports so you can view you know, all their activities, and they've been kind of excellent partners for us. We're also building out our own risk management team so we can directly manage the funds ourselves and produce the yield on it. But yeah, again, all from the client side of things, it's you create an account with us, you can deposit your coins, and you'll immediately start getting paid interest, and you can withdraw at any time. Withdrawals, we guarantee it within 7 days, but almost all of our withdrawals are processed within 24 hours. Our client team and operations teams work very hard to make sure we do those quite promptly. So yeah, when we operate in most countries around the world for most of these products, so you can
Mhm.
sign up almost wherever you are. So yeah, those are the two savings products. So it's just Bitcoin and USDC savings, and then the loan products. So the original product we had was the Bitcoin backed loans, where if you let's say you're in need of some you know, fiat currency, some dollars, but you do not want to sell any of your Bitcoin because that creates a taxable event, we will loan you the dollars you need in exchange for Bitcoin as collateral. So you simply deposit your Bitcoins with us, and then we will send you US dollars. We can send it by bank wire, or we can send USDC. And you know, you'll like any loan, you'll have to pay it back with interest later. And once you pay back the loan, we will lease your collateralized Bitcoin, and that's yours again. So this is a great way to, you know, avoid selling your Bitcoin if you just temporarily need access to some funds. You know, it's essentially a way to finance your holdings. And then our last product is B2X, which is a more specialized version of the loan product. It's another type of dollarized loan, or Bitcoin collateralized loan. But in this case, we found that a lot of our customers were using the dollar loans. So they would deposit Bitcoin, they would get the loan in, you know, dollars. They would use that dollars to buy more Bitcoin, and so B2X automates this process for you in the background. So you could, deposit 1 Bitcoin into B2X, and we would issue a loan at for in dollars for the amount that Bitcoin is worth, and immediately use those dollars to purchase more Bitcoin for you and put that back in your collateral. So you end up doubling the amount of Bitcoin you put on the platform. So let's say you have put down 1 Bitcoin, we issue you the loan, then you have 2 Bitcoins in your collateralized account. If the price of Bitcoin goes up, you can then close that account, and it will automatically sell the amount of Bitcoin you need to cover your loan. And if the Bitcoin price has gone up, you get to keep the extra Bitcoin. So it's a specialized version of the loan product that just allows you to.
It's a game for everyone, or internationally. It's not only for Canada.
Yeah, so it varies region to region. It's easier for us to roll out the interest products for USDC and BTC. Right. The savings products are available very, very widely. The loan products are available in most places, but there are some districts, like many states in the United States, where we're still in the process of getting licenses and stuff. But if you're curious about your own region, just reach out to our support. Our client success team is very responsive. We really pride ourselves on giving excellent customer support. So if you look around for our reviews, you will see that people are very pleased with this. You will get a response very quickly if you contact us and just ask us any questions about your region, and we'll let you know right away.
Right. Very, very nice project, and that what you guys are doing. Honestly, me personally, I haven't had any experience with such kind of services so far. So the percentage that you have shared with me when I'm saving my Bitcoins is very good. 6% you have mentioned, or more?
6.5%, yeah, I believe it's currently.
5. And also borrowing, when you're lending some money, actually it's 1% per month, which makes it 12 over a year on annual base.
Yep.
Also, it's interesting. The B2X is something I need more time to read about it. But yeah, in general, yeah, sounds very, very interesting that what you're doing. And Mario, so you are having actually a very big responsibility promoting and marketing this service, which I trust that you have backed with lots of knowledge and experience. So aside from your job at Blockstream, I assume you are reading a lot about the technology and all the novelties and projects that are going on around the world and are being developed. What are the best channels, if I can state it like that, for information? If someone is a complete newcomer and is really curious to know more about Bitcoin, what would you advise such person?
Oh man, that's a tough question, because right now there are so many different levels or different areas someone could focus on, right? If someone really wants to get into the nitty gritty and find out what's going on in the protocol development space, you have the IRC channels, and you have the the Bitcoin mailing list, but that stuff can be kind of heavy, especially for a newcomer. Right. And then there's also, you could look into what's going on with Lightning Network, which is its own independent field of study. Now they have their own mailing list. For me, like, most of the information I get is from Twitter at this point. I have the people I follow on Twitter, and usually I'll hear about technical developments there. And then if I see something I don't know about, I have my friends I reach out to, and I will kind of dig deeper, and you can usually find articles. So it depends. There's also, updates on the regulatory end of things, and like the stuff that has to do with, business and institutions adopting it, which I don't keep as up to speed on. But again, I will hear that stuff secondhand. But yeah, for the one of the things that helped me early on was at the meetup with Ruben. He would just kind of tell me which people to pay attention to, and over time you can figure out kind of like who the who the core developers are. They will often have interesting things to say about just like different updates. Like, for technical things, also follow this guy called Merch. I forget what his Twitter account is called, but he does excellent kind of little snippets of of technical updates like on Twitter. So I like following his stuff. I'm going to give a shout out to Ruben as well. I mean, Ruben Thompson taught me most of what I know about Bitcoin, I would say. So yeah, I mean, it ends up being just you follow the right people on social media, I find. Um, Back in the day, I learned a lot from going on the Bitcoin subreddit. I haven't gone on there much in the last year or two, so I'm not sure if it's still uh, how much signal to noise there is now. One of the big challenges as well in the bull market is that as the price starts going up, everybody starts talking about the price instead of the technical stuff, which is like, I like it. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it because on the one hand, like it's nice because I hold Bitcoin and it's nice that the value is going up. On the other hand, it's sometimes it's easy for the signal to get lost in the noise. But yeah, I'm trying to think what other resources would be good. Actually, check out there's a small subreddit called our Bitcoin discussion, which I started a few years ago, and Ruben has taken over. And it doesn't have as much traffic, but it's the people there are very, very polite and thoughtful and talk kind of technical things. And so if you have questions that are a bit more advanced than just your newbie questions, I would suggest checking it out.
Mm-hmm. Bitcoin discussion. Okay, thank you. Thanks for that information. And aside from, you have mentioned when we are in bull market, people start and are focused more on the price rather than on the technology. But that's what I see more specifically from the developers' profiles in Twitter. They're really focused on the technology. They don't
Yeah.
give a flower, as they love to say, about the
They
price.
don't give a flower.
Yeah, this is the ladies' way of saying the other
This
thing.
is a show has to be friendly for kids, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
There are some people who are focused on the price, but we keep looking at those who are focused on the technology, because this is where the value, actually the price, is being defined by and being backed up by the technology. So if we focus on the price, most probably we are not on the right direction. This is typical for other people in the industry, more particular in their other projects that they're trying to promote. Okay, Mario. So you see also another thing that is really impressive to me, and maybe you can share some experience, as I'm a very new first Bitcoiner and second the YouTuber who is performing podcasts, shows, etc. I see you are having your own unhashed podcasts. You're a co-host there. So it's a Canadian podcast with people only out from Canada, or most probably.
Oh, no. That means I am the Canadian co-host. So my other co-hosts
Okay.
are not
Okay.
Canadian. So there are four of us doing it. There's myself, Ruben Thompson, who's Dutch, and then Brian and Colin Alds. You can see, yeah, they're all listed right there. And Brian and Colin Alds are two American brothers. They run privacypros.io.
Mm-hmm.
If you've heard of a bill photo, it's similar to a crypto steel. It's like they make metal backups and some other hardware devices for people. So they've been running Privacy Pros for a while, and so the four of us are we're just kind of good friends who decided we'd make a show to talk about Bitcoin. So we're all Colin, Ruben, and I all used to live in South Korea, and that's how we know each other. Mainly through Ruben running the meetup, and then Brian is is Colin's brother. We don't take it too seriously. It's kind of like it's a bit of it's just a bunch of guys meeting up once a week to chat about what's going on in the Bitcoin space. So it's very all we would never say give a flower, for example. There's a lot of profanity. It's not a kid friendly show, so we do a lot of kind of crass humor. But it's fun too, because especially Ruben is really technically knowledgeable. So sometimes we get good guests on, and we kind of dive deep into technical concepts. And other weeks we're just going over recent news and having a laugh about it. But yeah, this is
Yeah. So you have 136 episodes, and
that's
how?
right. Yeah. We've
Yeah.
been doing it once a week since late 2018.
Okay. So it's a strong routine. you know
Yep.
what you're doing. I don't have any fixed dates, and I haven't set myself any key performance indicators for that.
Yeah, well, we don't look at the key performance indicators much, but Colin has this is the third podcast he's done, and when we started, he said every week we're doing a show. He was like, even if we miss it, we need to have some backup episodes ready to push, because he said in his experience, if you ever miss a week, it becomes very easy to miss the next week. And so he like shout out to Colin. He really kind of has been like pushing it through all those time. But yeah,
That's great. And the people who would love to donate, to contribute, just to show their appreciation, they can donate.
we can. Yeah, you can. I mean, we're accepting lightning gear as well. If you want to buy, uh, buy a coffee or buy a stick of gum for us,
Coffee for
just you can
Robert,
send little amounts if you want to show appreciation. So it's just
Sunny,
yeah.
Heruti for Colin, round
There you
beers,
go.
new laptop. So,
There you go.
how many laptops did you manage to buy,
I
guys?
don't know if anyone's bought us a laptop yet. I think I know someone's definitely got us a round of beers, and actually, we have a few Patreon sponsors. People who've been paying us $50 a month on Patreon. We are really really grateful to them, and so we've been able to keep our costs covered. We're not making much money off of this, but we're able to cover our investment in it. So yeah,
Great.
well, yeah, I'm just stoked it's still going, honestly, because it was just something we do for fun.
For fun, for sure. And what is this white papers GP read white
Okay,
papers?
right. So we used to have this section in our show called I see, oh my God, they're serious, where we just each week we would choose another ICO that was just really stupid, and then we would laugh at it. Um, and the segment got kind of old. So after about a year, we stopped doing it. But we ended up we made some joke about how the white papers for these coins were about the same value as toilet
Okay.
paper or something. So we ended up actually printing this toilet paper that has the white papers from a whole bunch of nonsense cryptocurrencies. So you can buy them. You can get white paper, toilet paper, and read about them in the bathroom if you want.
I see
So
cheap,
that's what that is.
but it's not
What's that?
cheaper than toilet paper. 10 bucks.
I
10 bucks for toilet paper.
but you don't get the white paper as the normal toilet paper. It's the information on it that's valuable. It's not the toilet paper, right?
Right, right. So we in Italy there is, for example, a Twitter account that's being managed by Valerio Vaccaro, who is working at Blockstream, and it's called,
Oh yeah, I know Valeria.
yeah, a very nice guy. So, and he has created Scam Coin Bot, and he's also,
Oh, I've seen that. That's right.
yeah, and he's also making very fun tweets about any strange projects that are popping up. So it's very nice, but there are also two sides. For me, as a newcomer, for example, 2 3 years ago, if I have seen, the first thing that I have seen was your podcast, most probably I wouldn't have understood everything, or the tweets that I have mentioned to you about, because also Twitter is a little bit tricky. Last
It's a
time,
weird space.
yeah, so you cannot make immediately the difference from who is, if I can say, the good guy and the not so good guy, who is
Yeah,
really there for the technology and for the Bitcoin, or it's there just to promote something else. And it can be really confusing. So, and you have mentioned that you are following particular people in Twitter. Just what are the first three names that are popping up in your head, just without prioritizing or saying that these are the
oh,
three people that you would recommend to be monitored?
sure. Oh yeah, so the three names that came to mind were I said Ruben, but I've already pumped him up a bunch in this show. Peter Wella. He's one of the I mean, I think if you're in the space now, you should know who he is. But yeah, Peter, he also goes by Sipa, as one of the, he's done a tremendous amount of development for Bitcoin over the last 10 years. He was one of the blockchain co-founders. He's currently at Chaincode Labs. He's great. He's really high signal to noise. He never gets involved in any of the fights. He doesn't tweet about the prices and stuff, but he just has fun, kind of yeah, he's a fun account to follow, and he always has interesting little tidbits about technical stuff. And he's really patient. He explains stuff to people if you have questions about something he's talking about. Then I would suggest Alex Gladstein. Um, he works with the Human Rights Foundation, and Alex is really great, not for technical stuff, but for information about how Bitcoin is actually used by people around the world who really need it. Human Rights Foundation has a focus on the problem of tyranny and how to help people out in parts of the world where their human rights are being infringed upon. And he's become a very strong believer in Bitcoin as a tool to help people escape these situations. And so he's one of my favorite follows on Twitter. So Alex Gladstein, and then Nick Carter is really good. Nick Carter is very high signal of noise. He writes some wonderful articles. And he's quite an independent thinker as well. He's kind of very well beloved by the kind of Bitcoin orthodoxy, but he's also willing to speak out against it when needed. So yeah, those are probably the three top follows if you're new to the space. Peter Wella for kind of technical stuff. Alex Gladstein for kind of the why we do Bitcoin, and then Nick is great for keeping up at kind of a mainstream news and clearing misconceptions. Written a lot of stuff about Bitcoin energy. Yeah. Oh, and merch. Yeah, would also say merch. He's excellent.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Mario, for sharing this with me and for your recommendations. So, the next halving, we have a Bitcoin clock. Is it just a digital clock here on your website, or we can also order this one with a Moscow time? So, what about the Bitcoin clock? So we are actually expecting the next halving to happen in 2024, eventually on 17th of March, as per the calculations that we have every 10 minutes a new block. So in what case it can be not absolutely accurate, this clock?
Oh, well, because it's decided by which block it's happening on, right? And blocks in Bitcoin are found on average every 10 minutes, but there's variance. Sometimes you get a few blocks really quickly, sometimes you get blocks more slowly, and over time as well, more and more miners join the network, and so the difficulty adjusts. But within those 2 week periods, sometimes you get blocks being found faster. So you never know exactly when a certain block is going to be found, but we can guess it. We just take how many blocks are left. If we assume those blocks take 9.5 or 10 minutes to be found, what date does that put us at? So it says March 17th here. It's probably going to be sometime in March, maybe April, maybe February, but
yeah. Yes, approximately. Mm-hmm. Approximately, this is the date and time that we're expecting. And what are your expectations? I mean, what could happen by then? So right now, from technological standpoint, the biggest thing everybody is focused on is Taproot.
Yep.
And if you are monitoring closely the development, Bitcoin Core, what else are you expecting to happen?
Sure.
The plans.
Well, yeah, Taproot. It looks like Taproot is, fingers crossed, probably going to roll out in November. It should be live on the network.
Okay.
And Taproot is also, it lays a bit of a foundation for more work on it. So there are other types of construction similar to Taproot, like there's Graftroot and Guroot. I don't know how to pronounce it. G''root. I haven't looked at those in great depth yet, but they look like things we would also want to have on Bitcoin. And they and those are things that I think we'd need some more research in the next few years, but we're gonna be looking forward to them. Sooner than that, though, there are two other soft forks that people have been talking about. One is SigHash any prev out, or it used to be called SigHash no input, and this is a new type of signature that allows you to sign for a transaction even if you don't know certain inputs, and it would make a Lightning network a lot more efficient. And kind of reduce a lot of the risks of running a lightning node, or operating the end of a lightning channel. And this, I think, is actually much closer to being ready, from what I understand. So we might see another soft fork soonish after Taproot. I hope we don't have to wait another 4 years for another soft fork. That was the length between SegWit and Taproot if it goes out this year. And then there's also another one called, I think it's op check template verify, I believe it's called. This one is championed by Jeremy Rubin, which has to do with I believe it enables things like covenants. I wasn't prepared to answer this question. It From what I understand, it allows you to have an output that can only be spent in a certain way. So you could, if you need to, you can kind of divide important and less important parts of a transaction into two different transactions. So the important part gets confirmed first when fees are really high and it's urgent, and then you can finish accepting the money later on when fees are lower. That's a very, very rough explanation. So please do look it up if you're curious, and don't take my word for it. But I think that's another one that we might see getting discussed, added to Bitcoin in the next couple of years. So yeah, probably Taproot this year. I would guess Sagash Eddy Private probably next, maybe check template verify after that, and then meanwhile there'll be work going on the other types of routes. I mean, the thing that would be really cool, but is probably probably quite a few years away still, would be cross input signature aggregation. So one of the things that this Taproot fork does is introduces Schnorr signatures, which allow you to create, if you have a multi-sig where you have to get several people to sign off on an output. Right now, you need to have, each of them needs to produce their own signature. It takes up quite a lot of data in a transaction. And if we get Schnorr signatures now with Taproot, it allows the different participants to cooperate to produce one signature that's an aggregated signature. It combines their keys. And this saves a lot of space, and it's better for privacy because then everyone else just sees it as one signature. And this kind of is one step closer to cross-input signature aggregation, which would be really cool, where you might have a transaction with a whole bunch of inputs, and even if they're in different inputs, you can combine the signatures into one signature. And so you could get a lot of space savings this way. And it would also make things like coin joins a lot more usable. I mean, it would make them a lot cheaper. So it would incentivize people to use coin joins more. So it is something that that could enhance privacy on Bitcoin quite a bit. However, that's years away. Like, I mean, that's probably at least 5 years away if we do it. There's a lot of research that still needs to be done there. But yeah, those are things that come to mind when I think of updates that we're looking forward to.
Thank you for sharing this information. Just one clarification, if it's possible to be made. If once these planned and that these discussions for having these soft forks and additional implementations, are they going only to increase the privacy, or they're going absolutely to make it private and traceable, or absolutely impossible to be traced any transaction on Bitcoin? Is this the idea, or no?
Well, so there's no one solution that just fixes privacy forever, right? Instead, privacy is something that we have to gradually improve over time, bit by bit by bit. So there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we know of at the moment. Who knows? Maybe we find something one day that would just completely blow the lid off of. But all of these things I've talked about gradually allow privacy to improve bit by bit. But none of them are a silver bullet solution.
Okay, thank you for this clarification, Mario. So, what are your plans in general aside from Bitcoin and your job? Most probably, this is something like your mission, explaining all your friends. So you're really from quite a long time in the industry and in that space. All the people are associating you with the technology and Bitcoin. But are there other things on your plate that you'd love to accomplish in the coming months or years?
You want to know about my non-Bitcoin plans in the coming years?
Yeah, also Bitcoin related.
Okay.
Bitcoin,
Sure. Okay.
whatever it's okay for you to share. I
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't mind doing it. Yeah, okay. So I mean, like, of course, like, I really want to crush it at Leaden. I really like the company and want to help them do as well as possible. So that's the main thing. I am really looking forward to moving to Toronto to just be closer to family and friends. And yeah, in the next few years, I would like to start a family. That's something I want to do. But we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I mean, another area of interest I have is, so on my profile is, I'm really interested in psychedelics and how they can be used for improved healthcare. It's here on the West Coast. There's been a lot of research into how these drugs can be used in a as a form of therapy for people with anxiety, depression, or PTSD. And I personally benefited from a lot of these kind of alternative treatments. So that's something I really keep up to date with. In my spare time, I'll kind of be with groups, and I'm quite outspoken about it. So that's one thing I'm interested in as well. And I really like the effective altruism movement. Um, for those who haven't heard of it, it's a rough kind of organizations of people that are really dedicated to trying to do the most good with their lives, in partly by choosing careers that they believe are going to really, really alleviate suffering in the world, or and by being very, very careful about how they donate their money, and being really rigorous in kind of analyzing different charities or different um, funds, and seeing what are the actual results here. So those are two of the biggest interests I have outside of Bitcoin, and I really want to learn how I can do more
yeah.
to kind of help with them. For the psychedelics angle, it's mainly just I talk about it quite a bit. I try to get involved in local meetup groups, and try to be supportive of kind of efforts to gradually change regulation to make them more accepted by the medical community. And then for effective altruism, I'm still kind of an observer there. I haven't really been involved at all, but I don't know. In the coming years, if Bitcoin really takes off, if things go well with Leaden, as sure they will. Like it's I'm feeling really good about the team. It might get to the point where I can perhaps fund some of these projects. That would be the real dream. But I think I'm still quite a few years away from that for now.
Who knows? I wish you it to
Who
happen.
knows?
Right, right.
Yeah.
So kind of lightning network for you that could make your dream come true. I would love to know more about these drugs that you have mentioned. Uh,
Sure. All right.
I'm really curious because right now, all over the world, uh, I assume lots of people are experiencing anxiety and fears. So, and this with the drugs, I'm not sure the same people are going to be open to such idea, and most probably because they don't know what is it about. Can you share with me? Absolutely, I'm serious about it. So I'd love to know more about how I have to pronounce it. Psychedelics.
Psychedelics.
Psychedelics. Okay.
Sure. All right. Well, psychedelics are a family of it's kind of a group of drugs that have produced somewhat similar effects, um, and most of them are illegal in most places, but some of them are legal in some places. Uh, you know, uh, so the most well-known two versions are, if you heard of magic mushrooms, um, or LSD or acid. These are kind of the most common ones in the West that people know about. Um, and I mean, they've been, LSD was invented about 2 or 3 generations ago, but mushrooms have been around as long as people have been around. And if you look back in hundreds of cultures all across the world, there have been many cultures where there have been healing ceremonies associated with these mushrooms. So this isn't particularly new. It's especially common in places like Central and South America. Um, and there are these cultures that have had shamans would guide people through healing ceremonies, or you take them and you hallucinate and see all these crazy things, and it's supposed to be a healing process. And in the West, especially during the 1960s, the kind of hippies adopted a lot of these substances, and it's a bit of a messy history there because a lot of them were abused, and you can use them irresponsibly, and they can have very negative effects. So people need to be very, very careful about how they use them. But that was at the point where they kind of sort of gradually were getting reintroduced into Western culture, and then over the last 50 years, we saw this harsh crackdown on the whole war on drugs, and a lot of countries just banned them all outright and decided that they were damaging and didn't have any health purposes. And in the last 20 years, there's been a big resurgence of research in different universities. Here on the West Coast, there's a conference every 2 years called Psychedelic Psychotherapy, where a lot of the experts, come together to share research. Johns Hopkins University has done a tremendous amount of research here, and so it's a bit of a yeah, it's a bit tough because like for so many years they were classified in the same way. They were just drugs, and so people thought of them in the same way as they think of heroin or cocaine or fentanyl and these other drugs that are highly addictive and can kill you. Whereas psychedelics they have their own risks. You need to be very careful with them, but they tend to be non-addictive. They tend to be not toxic. The kind of the biggest risks with them involve you kind of getting freaked out like during your experience, and but in terms of physical damage they're quite limited. But that being said, because they have been outside of the mainstream medical establishment for so long, they aren't as well studied by mainstream medicine. So we are still learning a lot of the best ways to administer them, the best ways to stay safe using them. For the time being, like I don't want to give advice to people on how to use them because, again, in a lot of places they are illegal, and I am not going to encourage anyone to do anything illegal. But there are certain areas in the world where you can now, use them. I believe like Colorado and I think it was Oregon decriminalized magic mushrooms. So if you find them, pick them, you're allowed to eat them. And it's becoming more and more common for, especially if you're in a big city, there's probably a local group of people who are interested in this and can give advice. And yeah, as well, I have a couple of friends here in Victoria who are involved with a group called Therasil, which has been helpful in getting exemptions to allow people in Canada to legally consume these mushrooms, especially for people who are terminally ill with cancer, because they found that the mushrooms in particular can help people with end of life anxiety and can help people, be a lot happier for their final months and become a lot more at ease and at peace with their final days. And so that's a great first step as well. It was pretty smart, I think, for the earlier scientists who wanted to study this stuff to try and get exemptions for end of life patients, because if they're trying to convince regulatory bodies to allow them to do experimental studies with this new substance, even if there are risks, if it's someone who is dying of cancer anyways, they will be less concerned about long-term risks, for example. And so I think that was one of the reasons why they allowed the studies to start there. But they're gradually opening up more and more. I know that I think it was the US military is actually looking into using MDMA as a treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. So yeah, I mean, it's a really exciting space. There's a tremendous amount going on there. But yeah, I'm really hopeful that within 5 or 10 years, in a lot of places in Canada, for example, if someone wants to is interested struggling with depression or anxiety, maybe they can go into a clinic and take MDMA and have a therapist guide them through for 5 hours and then go home. That would be much better, because right now there are people who are seeking these treatments and are using them anyways, but they're forced to go and buy them illegally, and they have to do them on their own or with friends, and it's not as it can be somewhat risky when you have to do that. So I'm very, very hopeful that these things will become, more easily available.
Right. So I don't know. I honestly don't have a built opinion on that. So I tend to perceive it. That's why my initial question was, what about these drugs?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as it's illegal here in Europe, more specifically, I can talk more about Bulgaria. So it's also illegal to have 1 cigarette of weed with you. So, and we want
Yeah. Oh, it's still, weed is still legal in Bulgaria.
Yeah, it's illegal.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
illegal.
yeah. I guess it was only in the last,
But
10
also in
years or so
Italy
that
it's
places
illegal.
started.
It's not
Excuse me?
only in Bulgaria. It's in Italy. It's the same. I think. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe honestly, I don't know in which countries is for sure. In Netherlands, in Holland, it's the
Yeah, the Netherlands is always known as the place
the
in Europe that's
system.
most open. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. But
Yeah.
I don't know in what other countries. In I don't know in Portugal. I don't know.
Yeah, Portugal decriminalized all drugs, which is a bit different than making it legal.
Okay.
So what it means is that you won't get a criminal record for consuming or possessing them, but it's still not legal, so you still can't like buy them in a store or anything, from what I understand. And Portugal did this very, very early, and they've been kind of held up as an example of they essentially ended the war on drugs. They stopped throwing people into jail for doing heroin, for example, which I think is a very good thing because I mean, even if we look at the drugs that are very harmful, it seems quite clear that it makes more sense to treat it as a medical problem than it is as a criminal problem. If someone is addicted to uh, you know fentanyl, you're going to have much more success solving the problem if you treat them as a sick patient, not a criminal that we need to throw in jail. And yeah, Portugal I think was one of the earliest places that did that. I don't know what has changed the last like my information there is at least 10 years old, so I don't know if it's actually illegal. If you can, here in Canada you can go and buy marijuana in stores if you want to. You can just go in and buy it and walk out. I have no idea if Portugal is at that point yet, but I know they were one of the first to decide to stop treating it as a criminal problem, which I think is a very good step.
Right. So I don't know. I don't know what will happen. So there are lots of politicians who have started using this decriminalization of drugs in their political campaigns in order to attract additional people voting for them. But I don't know. It depends most probably on the people that are in the particular country. And from the other side, there is also this. I don't completely agree if something is damaging someone, and more specifically, the kids to have access to it just because it's I don't know, it's a very complex topic and
Mm.
it's, uh,
Yeah, I think that's an important risk we need to keep in mind. I think usually when people bring that up to me, I would point out that alcohol is very damaging to kids. You shouldn't have 10-year-olds getting drunk. That does a tremendous amount of damage. That being said, we can make alcohol accessible to adults, and we can also take a lot of efforts to make sure that kids don't have access to it. Uh, you know, and it's not going to be perfect. Like even in some countries, like there are going to be children who get access to alcohol, but the response to that, I don't think, is to ban alcohol for everyone. So I see it in a similar kind of way. It gets a little trickier. Like I don't think that most of these should be as available as alcohol, but at the same time, I think that there are ways to deal with that risk that are different than the war on drugs, which we've been trying this one method for the last 50 years and it hasn't worked. So I think I think I don't know, I think decriminalization is a step in the right direction, but I agree with you that there still needs to be big precautions to make sure that kids aren't abusing substances that are going to be bad for them. Yeah.
right. And it's not like in Europe it's forbidden, or at least I can talk more about Bulgaria. So for sure they're asking you to check, or they're obliged to ask you to check your ID before selling you beer. However, when I was a kid, I was having access to beer and other alcohol without showing my ID. So, and
Hmm.
now the things are even, I would say, kind of worse than before. So, if you want to have access to something, you just are going to find a way to have that access to it. And most
Hmm.
probably, this is connected with some kind of lack of education, because if the people they have the right information and also from, I don't know, it's really a complex topic. We may organize another webinar and
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, maybe we'll do it another time.
we can invite some representatives from this university that you have mentioned about, and
Sure.
and we can talk about it. Okay, Mario, it was really a great pleasure talking to you. You have shared with me lots of valuable information, and I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for having me on. This was fun.
Thank you.